What's up, all my plant lovers? I'm Devin, and I'm here in Bogota, Colombia, visiting my wife's family, and we've been on the hunt for some lovely houseplants to fill the apartment. Now, back in the States, over the last 10 years, I've grown 400 different kinds of houseplants, both at our home in Westchester, Pennsylvania, as well as in conjunction with my family's nursery. So for me, I have a really good idea of what constitutes a good houseplant and what is a bad houseplant, in my opinion. Along with all those houseplants, I tend to a 3.5 acre garden that requires pretty much all of my gardening time. So for me, I want houseplants that are very low maintenance and look good pretty much 12 months out of the year. So in this video, I'm going to go through 15 houseplants that I consider bad houseplants that I just won't have in my home anymore. And then I'm also going to create another video about 15 great houseplants that I think are worthwhile in anyone's home. So what constitutes a good houseplant? What constitutes a bad houseplant? As I was saying, a good houseplant should have that everlasting beauty. It should be lush and full and grow not too fast, not too slow inside the home, require really nothing more than weekly or bi-weekly watering. Whereas a bad houseplant, in my opinion, is a plant that only looks good for a season, or maybe is very susceptible to bugs inside the home, or maybe needs special humidity or sunlight conditions in order to be its best. So let's start with the bad houseplants. And the first one's on my list, it's actually a 3-for-1, and that would be our white flowering fragrant houseplants. I'm talking jasmine, gardenia, and stephanotis. All three of them are absolutely beautiful when grown outdoors, but as soon as you bring them inside, they all start to lose their luster pretty quickly. Generally, they're not going to flower inside, so you lose that quality. Their foliage is just okay. It's nothing spectacular like a beautiful monstera or philodendron, so you don't have that lovely lushness that I would be looking for. And furthermore, all three of them, in my experience, are super susceptible to spider mites inside the home, and I do not want spider mites going from one plant to the next inside my home. Now, the next one on the list is the Anthurium crystallinum. This has been one of my favorite houseplants forever. When the foliage gets just that right sparkle of sunlight, it just glistens and it's beautiful. But unless you have a greenhouse setting where you can get the perfect amount of sunlight, the excellent humidity, and the right temperatures all year round, chances are your plant's gonna stall out. It's probably not going to ever look flush and lush, and you might just have 1 or 2 leaves at any given time. And for me, that just does not cut the bill. I grew one for about 3 years, and at points during the year, it looked okay until it eventually got scale and made its way to the cemetery. I love begonias, Rex begonias, dragonwing begonias, all sorts of begonias are beautiful, but I've had such a hard time keeping them healthy inside the home. All of the begonias that I've ever grown inside the home always tend to get mealybugs. I don't know why, but it just seems like mealybugs and begonias go hand in hand. There's so many different beautiful kinds of begonias, and I wish I could bring those gorgeous Rex begonias inside my home, grow them successfully. But for me, they have always been a bad houseplant. Now, the Tradescantia, or the inch plant, is a very popular, very common houseplant. It's generally quite inexpensive, and I've seen it look decent as a hanging, overflowing plant, but for me, it is such a rapid grower. If you are not constantly cutting it back every, month or so, they end up just really outgrowing their containers, generally filling the pot with too many soils. You gotta repot them constantly. If you combine them with other plants in the same pot, they end up taking those other plants over. For me, it just requires too much upkeep. I don't want to deal with it anymore. Now, speaking of Bogota, the first time I ever saw tree ferns growing outdoors was here in this city. They have a lovely selection of them throughout the city and including at the botanical garden here in Bogota. And so I tried to grow one as a houseplant. It was one of the most epic failures I've ever had. It was basically just a stump in a pot for probably 2 years, waiting and hoping to get my first leaves to emanate. Never could get the right humidity, couldn't get the right lighting. I tried different substrates, different soil mixtures, never could get it right inside the home. I think this one is meant for an outdoor climate like we have here in Bogota, not for the indoors. The Mangave plants are an interspecies cross between a Manfreda and agaves, and there's a lot of different really unique Mangave plants out there. And I grew it relatively successful as a houseplant until it got scale, which eventually led to its death. However, if you are able to put it outside in the summertime and then bring it indoors, it can subsist as a decent houseplant. But if you're going to try to grow this indoors all year round, you're going to find that it just doesn't look its best. So it's kind of in between on the list. And this list is really all about plants that can be grown successfully 365 days out of the year indoors without ever experiencing the outdoor climate. So this one, it kind of gets the asterisks. It's a unique plant, but it does need to be outside in the summertime as it is a succulent. And speaking of succulents, those are also on the list. Generally speaking, all the rosette forming succulents, whether it's Echeveria, sempervivum, those are plants that are not going to do that great as a houseplant all year long. If you can put them outdoors in the summertime, all right, they're gonna look good and they can subsist throughout the wintertime, but they will absolutely lose their luster, they will lose their color, and they just don't do much for me as a houseplant indoors. They need that unfiltered sunshine, the hot days, the cold nights, the fresh breeze in order to really do their best. So if you're trying to grow them indoors all year round, you're probably going to be a little bit unsatisfied. The category of palms, which can be grown indoors, also fall on the bad houseplant list for me. And that's because every single time I've grown a palm, the fronds always get brown tips, and it looks like they're just kind of like lapsing into death slowly but surely over the course of months as those tips just start to emanate through each and every one of the fronds. And like I was saying, I need that 100% beauty, the low maintenance, pure lushness from my houseplants, and so I don't want to be looking at brown tips on my plants. So palms aren't in my home or my houseplant jungle any longer. Another very unique, awesome anthurium would be the Anthurium podophyllum. This has these hand-like leaves that are enormous. And it's really cool, very unique, but they grow extremely slowly. I never had more than 2 leaves on my plant at a time. And it would be like one leaf would look good, the other would start to get brown and start to slowly die. And then as it died, another leaf would take its place, but it never had more than 2 leaves. And it just kind of had an awkward look about it. Never full, never super lush. And so this one is another one that I wouldn't grow again. Now, number 10, I would consider one of the worst houseplants, and you will never find it in my house, and that would be the Kalanchoe or the Kalanchoe, however you want to pronounce it. Tons of different ways to pronounce it, but they're all bad houseplants. I'm talking about those ones that look like little bushes with bright yellow, pink, or orange flowers that you're enticed to buy them at the checkout counter at the grocery store. Those plants are, in my opinion, just ugly. They're meant to grow upright out in nature, but they are trimmed and jammed into small pots so they have this little full, bushy appearance in your home. But as soon as you get home, the flower is going to be over with, and then you're going to have just this boring foliage on a plant that's kind of growing strung out inside your home the rest of the year until you wait for another 2-week period of colorful flowers. That's not what I want. It's not going to be in my home, and I just don't like them. I've seen them growing outdoors here in Colombia, and they're beautiful. They let them get like 2 to 3 feet tall, and it's kind of this really lovely sort of like low ground covering sort of plant, or medium-sized ground covering plant here outdoors, and that's how it should look, not jammed into a small pot that requires constant pruning. Another plant that I see all over the place out here in, just growing outdoors would be the tropical hibiscus. And I've tried to grow these indoors so many times, and every time it's a failure. I'll never get any flowers grown indoors. If I put them outside, yeah, they'll get flowers. But inside all year long, it's not going to be a fruitful plant. And these are some of the worst candidates for spider mites. The spider mites or the white flies will come and get your tropical hibiscus, and that's not fun. Now, number 12 on the list is the medinilla plant, and I saw this growing out in the wild out in Hawaii, and it was awesome. So when I got home, I purchased one to try to grow it indoors because I'd seen them in catalogs growing in these beautiful pedestals, and it's just was awesome. That was about as difficult as the tree fern. I couldn't get the soil right, I couldn't get the lighting right, couldn't get the moisture right, never did anything for about 2 years. So that one is on my list of no-goes. Number 13 is also a very rare plant called the Jatropha. I think Jatropha podagrica. It's kind of has this gorgeous like fat belly caudex like the adenium, desert rose, which I love. And it has really wild sort of flowers, but I couldn't get it right. It was either too dry or I would water it too much and eventually it rotted, that caudex. Indoors, not gonna do well. Outside, it would probably do fantastically. Now these last two, you guys might wanna throw some tomatoes at me. Number 14 would be the Calla lily. And I love Calla lilies. I have maybe 300 or 400, 500 of them that I've planted out in garden beds all throughout my garden in Westchester. And outdoors where they get that unfiltered sunlight, the flowers, they're upright, they take on really lovely, colorful tones. The foliage is also very strong, but indoors, you're not gonna get colorful flowers. They'll probably end up going to be green flowers that are, we call them flowers, that's not actually the true flowers, but you're probably not gonna get those colorful purples or blacks or pinks that you were hoping you would get. The foliage is gonna be floppy, it's gonna turn yellow, it's gonna turn brown, it's gonna just be a boring houseplant. They need to be outdoors. And then 15 on the list, it's another one that kind of is like the Kalanchoe, and that would be the Cyclamen. You see it at the checkout counter in October, November. It looks so beautiful. You get it home and you have like one warm day inside and your plant just kind of like withers away and you wonder what the heck happened. Cyclamen, they need cool weather. They need bright lighting. That's a combo that's very hard to achieve indoors. For me, they should be grown only outside where they're allowed to go through their natural dormancy cycle. Cyclamen, they need to go dormant for half of the year. I don't want a houseplant that's gonna, number one, have to have these really specific conditions, and then it's gonna go dormant for half the year. So Cyclamen is also on my bad houseplant list. And so for me, those 15 plants are ones that I will never grow again as a strictly only houseplant. Most of them, they have a place if you're able to put them outside in the summertime, indoors in the wintertime, but none of them, in my opinion, are worth that 365 days out of the year real estate in our precious space inside of our home. Absolutely subscribe to the channel. I'm gonna be creating a good houseplant list coming up shortly, so be on the lookout for that video as well. Anyways, thanks for joining me here on Plant Vibrations. I'll catch you next time. Ciao.